Welcome to Gospel Tangents, the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology. I'm Rick Bennett. I'm excited to continue our conversation with David Nielsen of the Nielsen-Naylor group. They're a Mormon fundamentalist group, and I asked David if they believe that Nielsen-Naylor is the one true church. His answer really surprised me. We'll also talk about priesthood, and I was surprised to find out that women actually propose marriage. So you won't want to miss this conversation. Check it out.
I would like to go back to a statement you made, because this is common LDS statement, which is, so we don't view our presidency as a first presidency.
Oh, okay.
The reason why is because we don't believe that we are the one church.
Okay.
So when we ordained our president, we ordained him president over the high priesthood over this part of the work.
Okay.
So we're not denying that there's other priesthood that is legitimate, other ordinances that are legitimate, other churches that are legitimate. I don't think I have, I think most of us are pretty unified that we don't feel to make that claim for ourselves. Say we are the one true, no one else has priesthood except for us. We just see too many evidences to the contrary. There's good being done all over.
So all of the churches, FLDS, Centennial Park, LDS, all of them have priesthood?
To varying degrees.
You've got the best priesthood?
Well, I'm biased. But I actually have friends in a lot of these places, and I see the good that they do. And so I couldn't say that we have the only true priesthood. I think we're all pretty much agreed on that point. So the way we look at it is we're trying to organize ourselves, and those who would like to join in our efforts, then they will come in. And one other thing we do that isn't common in Mormon fundamentalist groups is we do everything by common consent. So, we found out by reading the scriptures that was important, that the people have a right to be governed and say. Now, it's not voting like the democratic system. It's similar to the way the church does it, with a few minor differences. If we're presenting a presiding office, but actually we will vote for any office in the priesthood, teacher, priest, deacon, if they live in an organized branch based on section 20 versus 65, I think it is 65 and 66, it says that if you're in an organized branch, then nobody should be ordained to any office without the vote of that church.
Does it have to be unanimous?
No.
No, it doesn't. Okay.
No, but what we do to try to help out with this process is the bishop would get up and say, we feel that brother so-and-so should be ordained a priest to help in the Aaronic priesthood duties. We're going to present his name here, and then in 2 weeks we're going to vote. So that gives people a time that they can go talk to the person. They can, if there is any major concerns, they can go to the bishop and they can say, hey, this young man, you want to ordain him a priest, but he's doing this and this and this and this. It'd be good if he fixed some of these problems, or I know this, or, it just gives you an opportunity to work out problems.
So I'm assuming it's a little different than the LDS, where you get deacons at 11 or 12 and teachers at 13 or 14. You probably are older with those callings?
Most of them are older. There's a few that could be as same age as the LDS, but we don't really go off age. So, for instance, I was never ordained a deacon or teacher. I studied, and I was very interested in the priesthood when I was young, and I was 16 years old, and my dad ordained me a priest. Okay. I went to him and I said, I think I'm ready to take on this responsibility, and I want to help.
So what are the responsibilities? Is it just blessing the sacrament, or is there more to it?
So, blessing the sacrament is one. A priest can baptize. So that's one of the things they can do.
That's in section 20.
Right. And also to assist the bishop in temporal duties. So the bishop is, as you know, the president of the Aaronic priesthood, and then he has the offices that help him. So I wanted to really, the main things that I kind of focused on, what I was preparing for, was to be able to minister the sacrament. And then section 20 says, preach, teach, expound, exhort, invite all to come unto Christ. And I just felt like that was a big job. And I was like, I got to make sure I'm ready to take that on. And when I felt ready, I went and talked to
Because I don't think LDS priests teach expounding sword, even though it's in the scriptures. Yeah. I mean, I guess there's home teaching. Is that similar to what you're
That is
thinking?
part of the responsibilities of a priest, would be home teaching.
Okay.
And we didn't have home teaching when I was ordained a priest. But see, I talked to my dad. He ordained me a priest at 16. And then 2 years later, I went on a mission and they ordained me an elder. So I was only a priest for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And once I was an elder, then me and my missionary companion, we got with the bishop and we asked him if we could start doing some kind of home teaching, because we were missionaries, but we're service missionaries at this time. So we didn't proselyte. We were, building people houses and doing community projects and working on stuff. And it was fantastic. It's the best time of my life. Of course, we're hoping for good times too, but as a young person, it was a real turning point for me. I was always interested in the gospel, but it helped make my religion very real, because it was a day-to-day thing. We quit our jobs. We didn't take in any money. We lived off of the mercy of the people. So the parents didn't pay for our stuff. I mean, if me and my companion, if we were out of socks, we'd pray for socks. We'd kneel down at our bedside and we'd say, "Gonna need some new socks, Lord." And I tell you what, and I think this is true no matter what branch of Mormonism you're in, the Lord will provide for those who are serving him. Because somebody would always come and give us $10 or something. I remember my birthday, we were getting really down on our clothes.
So this is without purse or script, basically?
Yep. That's the way we did it. And so I was getting down really low on some of my clothes, and we prayed about it. And my birthday was in 2 or 3 days. And everybody in the community gave us clothes for my birthday. And me and my companion were about the same size. So we just divvied them up half and half, and we kept working. It was good. But we really wanted, when we're missionaries, we really wanted some more spiritual experiences. So we asked if we could do home teaching, and the bishop agreed. We went out and got names of people that would like us to come, and we would just schedule them. We tried to hit everybody in the area we were serving, which was Bluffdale area, once a month, and we would study and we'd read the scriptures, and the kids would come and ask us questions while we were there, and we'd write them down in our little notebook, and we had study to do for the next month. And it helped me get a grasp on the scriptures in a way that nothing else could. Even to this day, give me a 3-in-1. Like I can search stuff on my phone, but I really like paper in my hands, because I know where stuff is. We had to answer some pretty tough questions.
So when you're on a mission without purse or script, do you get a job as needed, or?
We didn't. We had enough stuff to do. So.
But, when you're out of socks.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing.
We're just relying on people.
Yep. Generosity of the people. And, people would feed us lunches if we're working on their house. Like, people would do additions, or they would, we're 18, 19 years old. We're capable. We know how to work. So we would show up. Someone would tell us what to do. We just go to work. Lunchtime would come. They would feed us. They usually had meals kind of scheduled for dinner. We'd go over to someone's house. A lot of times it was for home teaching, and they would just incorporate dinner in. They would say, "Oh, come over, preach and we'll feed you dinner," and so we would do that regularly. So, and there's a few days I remember I was joking with my missionary companion. There are some days where we just have to get out of bed and realize that today's going to be a fast day, so we better make use of it and find something to fast over. Not very often. The people were really good.
So the service missionary was just among the Nielsen-Naylor group, basically?
And we did a little bit of, we went to Canada and helped out with some of the projects that.
Was that British Columbia?
Yeah, British Columbia, that Winston Blackmore was doing. So I got to know him really well through that. So we did branch out and do a little more than just stay home all the time, but there was a lot of work that we did, just working at people's houses and all that. So it was good, but it was good to get to know people, and we were young, and we dove into the scriptures and learned our religion. And then I got off 2 years later and And my missionary companion got married the day he got off, and of course I didn't. I had to wait, but we're still really good friends now. So,
so that's interesting because I watched Polygamy USA on the National Geographic Channel, or you can get it on Amazon and watch it. And one of the interesting things about Centennial Park, and so I'm curious if it's the same in your group, is typically the women ask the men to get married. Is it that way in your group as well?
I would say that's preferred.
Okay.
So we don't have any kind of placement situation. We don't have like a system, I should say. We don't have a placement system. We don't have, I would say if we have a system of marriage, it is that we desire to respect agency, first of all. And we're not going to force anybody. We're done with that. Any kind of coercion of any kind. Nope. Any coercion, we will defend our daughters. We will do everything we can to help them make the best choice. And so if a man comes around and he's just asking a bunch of girls, he's probably not going to get along very good with a lot of the dads. We can be a little bit, Papa Bear-like, We don't like that. I wouldn't say that you're going to get tossed out on your head if you asked for a girl, but if you want it to be successful.
Ask the girl to marry before you date, or do you date first?
There are some who date, I should say, but the way that we encourage our young people is if you want to get married, go to the Lord. Go pray. Get your father to pray with you. If you don't have a father, go find the patriarch or the bishop and have him pray with you and see who you feel. So you feel like you have choice of basically anybody you want. And
so does it go both ways? The men ask the women, the women ask the men?
We've done a little bit of that, but most of the time it's the women who are initiating it.
Okay.
Most of the time. And there's a little bit of safety in that because, the women, and not to downgrade any of the men, but I've noticed most of the time the women are a little more serious. We have a lot of good men, but I usually tell people it's better if you're a young man, you want to get married, the best thing to do is to show up to church, pay your tithing, show up to the work projects, just serve. If you haven't served a mission and you want to, go serve a mission. Some girl's going to notice you. The Lord's going to touch her heart and she's going to say, you know what, I think that might be interested. And if the Lord touches your heart and you go, I really feel like I need to say something, go talk to her father.
See, because I have to tell you, one of the most unusual things that I saw on Polygamy USA was there was a situation where, in fact, I remember, so Arthur Hammond was the mission president. Mm-hmm. He told me that wasn't really true. I actually met Arthur Hammond.
Yeah.
I'm going to share this story. I went to Centennial Park. I went to Arthur Hammond's house, and I said, I saw you on TV. And he looked at me and said, I saw you on TV. And I was like, you're kidding me. And I said, what did you see? And he said it was the Fundamentalist Temple in Missouri, which was really popular.
Yeah.
I think all the fundamentals have seen it. Everybody's right. Like, I've seen that. I haven't seen much, but I saw that video. But anyway, so this missionary comes into Arthur's office, and if I remember right, Arthur basically says, okay, you're released, go get married or whatever. And I think in the next episode, a woman wanted to marry this guy. And to me, it's so foreign because he's like, well, I guess we should start dating then. And I was like, that's really backwards. You should date first, see if you like each other, and then ask to get married. But that's not how Centennial Park, and it sounds like that's not how you do it.
No. Although if two people wanted to and they were determined due to agency, we're not going to kick them out.
Yeah.
But if it was my children, I would say the best thing you could do is serve and pray about someone. And then if you feel good about marrying them, then, especially if it was my daughter, I would say, usually if it was my daughter, I would go talk to the father of this young man and say, my daughter's interested in your son. Will you talk to him?
And I remember Josh Thompson from the AUB said, as a guy, you're just trying not to be a loser in front of the father. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Maybe I don't understand that all the way. I might be a bit more confident. I've never had that problem. But so I'm a polygamist, which I don't mind saying. I'm pretty open about it. And
can you tell me how many wives you have?
I have 3.
3, okay.
And all
That's
3
like
of them.
Telestial, right?
Well, I don't know. The people say that. I don't know what to do about that. I kind of go, I don't feel like I'm better than anybody else. I'm just working at it.
Because isn't there a 3, 5, 7?
I've heard this, and
it's not part of your theology.
Personally, no.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there's something to it, but it must be on a higher grade than I'm on right now.
Okay.
To me, I look at it and I go, if a girl wants to marry, I'll just tell you the stories. They're all similar in some aspects. All of them, it was them coming to me. Well, in 2 cases, it was their fathers.
Oh, their fathers came to you.
Yeah. Well, the first one, it went kind of through the girl's father.
Your first wife.
Yeah. My first wife, through her father, through his bishop, to my father, to me. So it was, and then I was like, okay, well, we got to get something going. So I called his bishop directly, and then I got to talk to the father, and then I got to talk to her. So it was kind of, some doing there. But that,
because I have to tell you, the most terrifying thing to me, we date first before we propose and that sort of thing. So that's what I'm used to. And I was just like, but what if I don't like the girl that picks me? Which I'm sure happens the other way as well.
Well, that's where agency comes in.
Yeah.
So if a girl comes to a young man, he should have every right to say no.
Okay.
He should. And a young girl should absolutely have every right to say no. Or leave me alone, or however she wants to phrase it. But I felt like I could say no.
Because that was a big deal, especially with Warren Jeffs, he was the matchmaker. I mean, he was like, there's that story, Elissa Wall, I can't remember the name of her book, but Warren forced her at age 15, I think she was 15, or maybe she might have been 14, to marry her second cousin or something.
Yeah.
And she didn't like him.
Right.
And then they were like, Warren was like, you have to do this. I'm the mouthpiece of God.
Right.
And so you've totally gone away from that.
Yeah, we don't do anything like that.
And so as far as underage marriages, what would be the youngest a woman would get married, let's say?
Whatever is legal in the state.
Okay.
We would not go.
So 16 probably in most states?
16 if the parents sign and consent, but it's very, very rare.
Okay. So it's more like 18 probably?
18 is a little more common, and 20 is probably more common than that.
Oh, okay.
So people aren't just scrambling out the house to get married all the time.
Okay.
So, which is good. I think that it's better for people to mature. And for plural marriages, in Utah, it's absolutely 18. Nobody under 18.
So his second wife has to be a minimum of 18.
Yep. And that's the law in Utah.
Okay.
Even though Utah doesn't regulate plural marriages, they're very specific on that one because of the polygamists that live there. I mean, it's not a legal marriage, but they still say the unlawful cohabitation thing, kind of will turn a blind eye if she's over 18 when she makes that choice.
Oh, okay. Because I do know, I have a cousin, he's not a polygamist, although he's been married 3 times, but 3 divorces, or 2 or something.
Yeah.
But he got married at 15. I think his wife was 15 too. Basically, he got her pregnant.
Yeah.
And I remember, it was on my birthday, so it was easy to remember. I can remember that wedding date.
Yeah. We'll see. Utah changed the law to 16. I think it was because of the Tom Green trial. I think before that, it was actually 14 with parents' consent.
Oh. I'm trying to remember how long ago that was. Hadn't been married very long. It was probably about, and I don't remember Tom Green. Tom was in a lot of different groups.
Yeah, he was.
Because I just went to a Kingston funeral. Apparently he died as a Kingston.
Yep, that's right.
And yeah, that was interesting.
I only ever met him once, but.
Yeah, I had a Facebook message because when he got out of jail or prison, I get those mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the news, and I was like, hey, we should get together. And he said, well, I can't do it while I'm on parole. And then he died from COVID. So about 2019, I think, 2020, somewhere around that.
Yeah, so, but
he was the big problem from what I understand, because he was marrying these underage girls, and he was divorcing them and basically committing welfare fraud so that he could, she's a single mother, so she gets more money.
Yep.
And he was still spiritually married.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's basically what Wikipedia says.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's as much information as I know, because I didn't know him personally.
Yeah.
But, I legally married my first wife, and I'm still legally married to her. So,
okay.
So I haven't divorced her and married all the others either, but we've done weddings through the church. So we're spiritually married, and most people leave us alone. I mean, all my wives are close to the same age, and they're having children together, and it's just a lot of fun.
Okay.
I don't know how else to say it.
Do I dare ask how many children you have?
You could, and I usually tell people for the shock factor, but
oh wow,
no, but I have 12 and
12. Wow,
one daughter. So
okay.
So 11 boys.
11 boys and a daughter.
Yeah, trying to take after Father Jacob with the 12 sons and one daughter thing, but we'll see how that goes.
Wow.
But anyway, yeah. So
underage marriages, you don't do that.
Nope.
Generally, let the women pick the men. Whether you can do a mutual thing, I guess. Because that happened in Centennial Park too. There was a story about I think he was about 18, and he had a 17-year-old girlfriend, and he wanted to marry her, and
we have those.
Like, I don't know if that's a good idea. You need to go make some money.
Yeah, we have those kind of situations as well. So I wouldn't say that it's a strict policy. We don't have a super controlled marriage system, but we just, more than anything, because of the abuses we've seen, we feel that agency should be preserved at all costs.
Okay.
And
is that a reaction to Warren Jeffs, basically?
That's part of it. And even a little bit of, we've had, because of our connections with Winston Blackmore, some of those people, they knew Warren very well. Their wives were placed by him. And as we've interacted, we just feel that it's wrong. Don't feel that people should be forced to marry somebody that they don't want to marry.
Right.
And they need to have that freedom. And the only way to create that freedom is to create an environment where that freedom is real, not just talked about. Like, oh, well, you have a choice, but, we strongly recommend you do what we tell you, but we're not going to say you're forced. Say, no, you have a choice. What would you like? And we'll help you, we'll help you if you need. I've had several girls come to me and ask me, young girls, and say, can you pray with me? Because maybe their fathers weren't around or were passed on or something. And I say, sure, I'm not going to kneel down in a dark room with you and pray with you, but I'll pray at my house. You pray at your house. We'll pray for the same thing for a while. And then those girls can feel good about somebody and then approach either the father or the man himself and see how they feel. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I know a whole handful of situations that just, they started talking. They have this view in marriage. So it's not like they start talking and say, okay, we're getting married. It's like, no, we're not going to just date for fun. So we're going to, we call it court. We're going to court, with the intention of getting married. But if something comes up and somebody changes their mind at any point, it doesn't have to go on. There's no pressure. We've really tried to cultivate that environment, not just for marriages, because this ties into the church as a whole. This is where we started reading about common consent and the consent of the governed. You should be able to say who you want your leaders to be. You should be able to say who you want your spouses to be. You should be able to, have a voice in the direction of your life.
So when they sustain somebody for a calling and people disagree, they talk to the bishop and say what their thing is?
Well, and that's part of the reason for the 2-week separation. So they would say, brother so-and-so, we want to consider him to be a, president of a branch. If you have any concerns, here's your time, 2 weeks. You can go talk to him. If you don't feel comfortable talking to him, you can talk to the president or one of the members of the high council or something and say, hey, there's a problem. Because what we're really trying to avoid is some of the issues like with Warren, where he gets put in a position and people knew. There's people around him his age, they knew the problems. They didn't say anything. We're not interested in that. If there's a problem and people don't know about it, like the high council feels good about putting someone in a position and somebody comes forward and says, well, actually, there's some problems here. Then we go, well, let's stop this process now and we'll go try to work this out and see if this is true and get him help. If there's somebody who's doing something that's not right, you probably need some help. Some accountability or maybe even some mental help, something to help repent and do better. And if you have somebody who's a predator, you probably don't want to put them in a presiding position. There's too much opportunity there.
Would you view Warren as a predator?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
So, because you put a man in a position with power to where he can influence things and he has some issues, the temptation's too great to take advantage of people because you're the mouthpiece of God. You can, obviously that situation's blown way out of proportion, but yeah, and I would even view if coercion is part of the process, then that person is probably bordering predatory.
Okay.
Because you can't do that. We believe in consent. So.
Interesting. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with David Nielsen of the Nielsen-Naylor Group. In our next conversation, we're going to dive into their relations with the FLDS Church. Do they go on missions there?
I wouldn't say like proselyting active missionary work, but we have a lot of friends and I have gotten calls in the middle of the night sometime. I remember one time specifically, I had a friend who had left the Warren program. I don't even know what to call it. I can hardly even call it a church,
Thanks for listening, and I hope you to continue to enjoy Gospel Tangents. Consider becoming a Patreon or go to gospeltangents.com/shop, and you can get a cool tie, a hat, or even a nice mug. You can also get a sweatshirt. So check it out at gospeltangents.com/shop.